So in this video, we are just kind of piggybacking off of what you learned in the last video. We're still talking about the distributive property, but this time we're talking about what happens if you have a negative number on the outside of the parentheses. So it says a negative sign indicates the opposite of the number. So if we list out the opposites of these numbers, we have -8, 5, -x, 3x, -1, and 9x. So it says when distributing a negative number, you must find the opposite of each term within the parentheses. So if you remember in the last video, I told you that you can separate out with the little fence post on the inside of the parentheses, and that will tell you what type of number each term is. So for example, on the inside of the parentheses for this particular problem, we have two positive numbers. We have g and we have a +5. So we're going to do -2 times g. That gives us -2g. We're going to do -2 times +5. So that makes it a negative number. You can write this out two different ways. So you could write plus -10, or you can just write -2g minus 10. Those mean the same things. I was going to put a parentheses, but it doesn't need to be there. Either way, you're still going to get it right, as long as you know that that 10 is negative. So in this problem, if I divide it, we see that we have a -g and we have a +5. So -2 times -g is +2g, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And then -2 times +5, again, is -10. I think it's easiest to just put the terms together using the sign that's given. So if it's a -10, we're just going to write -10. But if it's a +10, we're going to write +10. So we're going to separate it with the little fence post again. -2 times g is -2g. -2 times -5 is +10. And on the last one, we have two negatives on the inside of the parentheses. So -2 times -g turns into 2g, and -2 times -5 turns into +10. So this is, what do you notice about the problems above? Okay, so like I stated before, if there's a negative number on the inside of the parentheses, all it does is the sign of everything on the inside of the parentheses changes. So if negative number on the outside changes the signs of everything on the inside. Okay. All right, so we are going to do problem 6 and 7 together, and then you are going to do the other 4, pausing the video. So -2, or first I like to draw that little fence post separating the two terms. So -2.5 times 4k. So that gives me -10k. -2.5 times -2 turns into a +5. All right, on number 7, we have a fraction on the outside. Sometimes that freaks people out. Fractions on the outside of the parentheses really aren't that difficult, though. So for example, in this one, we are multiplying by 1/2. So if you're multiplying by 1/2, you just have to ask yourself, well, what's half of 6? Half of 6 is 3. Okay, so you just multiplied by 1/2. but it was a negative times a positive, so it's a negative 3t. And then we have negative 1/2 times positive 2, and that leaves us with a negative 1. All right, so pause the video and work out these 4 problems. Okay, so you should get negative 10x minus 45, 40 plus 20j, 3p minus 21, negative 12d plus 22. All right, so we are going to not do number 12. I do not like that problem. What we are going to do on this one, okay, it says write an expression for the perimeter of the rectangle. So the perimeter is all of the sides added together. So we could make this x plus 6 and this 3x minus 2. Okay, so you could write out a really long expression where you have to combine all of those terms. Or you can say, I need 2 of these and I need 2 of these. So our expression becomes 2x plus 6 plus 2 3x minus 2. So we get 2x plus 12 plus 6x minus 4. Then we can combine our like terms. So I have 2x and 6x. That combines together to make 8x. And then we have 12 plus negative 4, which makes positive 8. So that is our expression that would represent the perimeter of that rectangle. On 13 and 14, it gives you the expression and it wants you to come up with what could the possible sides be. So there's lots of different answers. Yeah. So on this one, we have to figure out, well, what number can we factor out of 12 and 6? So there's 2 different numbers you can factor out. So we could factor out a 3. And we end up with 4x on the inside plus 2 on the outside. And then this one, when we factor out, we can we could factor out a negative 8. So if I factor out a negative 8, on the inside we would be left with x plus 3. Okay, because negative 8 divided by negative 8 is just x, or 1x. Negative 24 divided by negative 8 is 3. Okay, there's different ones too. We could have factored out a 2. Okay, we could have had a negative 2 on the outside. So negative 8 divided by negative 2 is 4. So it'd be 4x, and then that would be plus 12. Okay, it doesn't have to be a negative number that we're factoring out. It could have been a positive number that we factored out, and then things on the inside. As long as you're factoring out a number that is used in both. So for example, this one, I couldn't say, okay, well 4 is a factor of 12, because 4 isn't also a factor of 6, so that wouldn't work out. But on this one, again, I could pick 2, and then I would get 6x plus 3. Okay? All right, and that is all for this video.